superstars. Really, I've got almost a tear in my eye. Really excited to share with you ABE'S Grand Prix story and to show you some footage of what he looked like as a young horse and what he was like and how we progressed our journey through. So today, or this video, is the first of quite a few, and this is a couple of months after we imported him, and we're just practicing and training all the novice movements. So let's get into it. So this is June 2006 and we're nearly getting close to June 2017. So this is nearly 11 years ago. I am obviously looking a little younger, or quite a lot younger, and so is ABE. Now, when I went to look and buy Friesians back then, in 2005 is when I imported them, I would go into a barn and I'd say, I'm looking for a Friesian that can do the high levels of dressage, who's over 16 hands at least, and who has a really good canter. And they went, okay, we've got about 300 Friesians here and I can show you probably 3 of them. And you walk in and into these barns, this is in Friesland up the top of Holland, which is an area that, you know, all these Friesians come from, and there'd be 300 black faces staring at you. They all look the same and they're all black and they're all hairy. But the fact that he could only show me 3 out of 300 shows you back then that it was very hard to find a horse that was athletic enough to do Grand Prix and that had a good canter. So we went to quite a lot of studs, and I remember we'd been to 2 studs and we were at the 3rd stud at about 5 o'clock and it was dark, like it was quite dark. And they said, oh, okay, we'll show you this one stallion and you come back tomorrow and you ride him. And they led him out of the stable, and he obviously hadn't come out of the stable all day, and he was like a dragon. He came trotting out, exploding, like he was fine. He stood by the handler, but he was bristling with energy and excitement, and they let him loose in the arena and he just went bananas. And I went, oh, I want to ride it. So I came back the next day and saw this beautiful animal with this, he had the longest mane that we'd ever seen on a Friesian out of all the ones we're looking at. He's only, how old is he? He's 6 in this picture. So, and he had just so much mane and so much presence and so much attitude. But the best thing was when you sat on him, and he's always given you this feeling. He had all this power, all this attitude, all this presence, and he just said, what do you want? And I was like, oh, I'm buying this horse. And I walked him and I trotted him and I cantered him and I bought him because of his canter, because he was the only Friesian or young Friesian I'd ridden that actually had a 3-beat kind of okay collected canter on him. All the rest of them ran around and nearly got you off, and it was like, oh, not got you off, but you know, we're just so unbalanced. And you can see already here, we can train the canter. So I imported him in, I think, October 2005, and we did a novice test that he I think competed in his first 3 novice competitions. Oh, who knew we had a change? There you go. We already had a change in 8 months. So there we go. But yes, he was just exceptional to sit on, exceptional to ride on. And yeah, I took him out competing novice. He won all 3 championships, won me rugs, won me all kinds of cool stuff. And then we progressed into the elementary and then, you know, started training the medium. His canter, everything had so much power, you know, and you sat on it like to collect it, and he was just there for you. And I always called him my rock. When we first started competing, he used to halt, throw up his head, scream at everyone, like this big neigh to tell everyone that he was here, and then he'd tuck his head back down and off he'd go and do his test. Now we go into the canter again. And he would sit and canter all day. Like he wasn't an anxious horse. He wasn't an anticipating horse. I think that was, yeah, it's not a perfect change. But he was just easy and fun for me. And in terms of taking out my very first stallion, in terms of competing my very first purebred Friesian, he was everything we could hope for. He had no half pass, as you can see here. He is not laterally supple, and that was our biggest problem. But everything else he had, and he had a lot of. So I was very, very lucky, I think, to land on my feet and get such an easy horse in terms of being able to handle. He was in terms of, he was always the same horse. Whether we were at home or whether we were at a competition, he was my rock. He was really dependable. Nothing spooked him. Nothing scared him. To this day, like, nothing can scare him. He's just, if you tell him everything's okay, he's a big brave Frisian and he goes, fine, everything's okay. And I fell in love with this horse. He was making all my dreams come true, winning championships, and you know, just really making my life really, really happy. And he still does. I still love him. And you know, he was beautiful. He had his beautiful black mane, beautiful black everything. And we really did progress through the grades. Like I said, he was competing novice, so I bought him as a 5.5-year-old that could do some. He could almost do a canter walk canter as well. So he was a little bit trained. He definitely didn't have a flying change. That was quite hard to teach him. And like I said, his biggest other flaw was his lateral suppleness. Everything else he had a good walk, good trot. The trot could lengthen. The canter they liked, the medium canter was all good. So life was really, really exciting. There he goes. And like I said, the best thing about this horse was his temperament, his just feeling that he was your war horse. He was just going to take you into a test and or take you wherever you needed to go, and he was there for you. He'd do his best and he'd be there for you. So totally love this man. And I think that's an okay medium trot for him. I think we're just going to do a halt. Trotting into your halt, Arbor. Come on, collect. That's just a picture of one of the rugs that he won. That's a picture, that's a photo shoot we did really early on with his mane out. And that's one of my favourite pictures of him and I. That was when he'd just been galloped around and told to look pretty for the cameras, and then he just comes galloping back to me and he's like, I've had enough of galloping. Let's go back and eat grass. So I trust you enjoyed that first little segment of him. Like I said, I didn't know he was doing changes back then. In my mind, as I remember it, the changes were really hard to teach to him. So it's funny how life works. But in the next video, I'm going to show you us doing an elementary test from Nationals, which was our next big thing to go to the Australian National Championships and see how we stacked up to the best of the Australian horses. So looking forward to sharing with that next time.